Hello dear students of third prep science for first term. Today we have a new part in our curriculum as we will studied before, as we talk about motion, speed, velocity, and we have a little brief about the acceleration, and we know what is meant by acceleration as the change in speed through time unit. Firstly, we know what is meant by motion. Motion is a change in the position as time passes. يعني بغير مكاني بس بمرور الوقت. Then we will talk about the speed as change in the distance or distance covered through time unit or in 1 second. يعني المسافة اللي بمشيها في وقت محدد. Then we have other concept as we will talk about the description of speed. We have uniform speed and non-uniform speed. As the types of speed, here we have distance covered or body covered equal distances at equal periods of time. Then we have other concept or other type as the body covered equal distances at unequal periods of time, or the body covered unequal distances at equal periods of time. Then we will talk about the acceleration, and we know what is meant by acceleration as the change in speed through time unit, and the same time we have here two main points. How can we differentiate between acceleration and speed? Anybody move with acceleration, anybody again moves with acceleration can't move with uniform speed. Because uniform speed, which means constant speed, السرعة المنتظمة يعني سرعة ثابتة ما بتتغيرش. At the same time we have what? We have acceleration, and we know what is meant by acceleration as we talk in the previous episode, as acceleration is the change in speed. So here we have a main give reason for the body which moves with acceleration, اللي بيتحرك باcceleration, can't move with uniform speed. As we see here in this monitor here, we have give reason for the body that moves with acceleration can't move with regular speed. الجسم اللي بيتحرك باcceleration can't move with regular speed. Why? As we know, we can differentiate now between acceleration and regular speed. Regular speed here, which means what? Constant speed. Constant يعني ثابت, يعني سرعة ثابتة. And we know acceleration, a change in the speed, يعني السرعة بتتغير. So we can answer this question according to this concept, as we will answer, because acceleration is the change in what? In the object speed through time unit. Again, we answer here according to the definition of acceleration, and we answer according to, we define acceleration as the change in the object's speed through time unit. So now we know how if the body moves with acceleration can't move with regular speed. Again, dear students, here we should know another point in this lesson. We talk about change in the speed, يعني تغيير في السرعة. Maybe this change is increasing or decreasing, يعني بتزيد أو بتقل. So we have two types of acceleration. We have increasing acceleration and decreasing acceleration. As we know, here body moves with positive acceleration. Positive acceleration, which means the change in the speed, or the speed increases through time unit, يعني السرعة بتزيد بمرور الوقت. At the same time, we know negative acceleration as decreasing in the speed through time unit. يعني يا اما السرعه بتزيد بمرور الوقت يا اما السرعه بتقل بمرور الوقت. So we should differentiate between the two main types of acceleration, as we have positive acceleration and negative acceleration. نبص كده مع بعض. We have here, as you see in this video, this car or racer in the car try to increase the speed of the car through time unit. So this car moves with a positive acceleration or increasing acceleration, again because the body or the speed increases through time unit. يعني السرعة بتزيد بمرور الوقت. So the description of this acceleration or this type of acceleration is positive acceleration or increasing acceleration, as you see in this video. The car tries to increase the speed or the velocity of this object. Okay. Now, how can we deal with a positive acceleration and a negative acceleration? ازاي نقدر نتعامل معاهم positive and negative acceleration? Positive acceleration, which means the speed increases through time unit, and the negative acceleration, the speed decreases through time unit. So we have two graphs, and we studied before in the previous episode, خدنا قبل كده في الحلقة اللي فاتت, why we use graphs and tables to describe the physical phenomena or phenomenon and find the relation between this or these physical phenomenon. So we have two here graphs of positive and negative acceleration. How can we define or uniform acceleration? هنا هنتكلم عليهم positive and negative acceleration زي ما احنا شايفين قدامنا. Here we talk about positive acceleration. As we see here, we have v and t, our time. Here we have speed or velocity and time. At the same time here, speed increases through time unit. Speed increases, السرعة بتزيد. And here we have another graph represents the relation between velocity and time to describe what? To describe the positive acceleration. So we talk about positive acceleration. As you see here, we have a straight line passes through the origin point, or maybe curved line like that passes through the origin point زي ما احنا شايفينه كده قدامنا curved line. But the two graphs represent what? Positive acceleration. What is meant by positive acceleration? As a definition now, we talk about speed increases through time unit. يعني السرعة بتزيد بمرور الوقت. So here we have another concept or another point in or to describe positive acceleration, final speed greater than initial speed. We have two speeds for any object, سرعة ابتدائية اللي هي initial speed and final speed اللي هي السرعة النهائية. So we have V2 as final speed and V1 as initial speed. In this case, we should know V2 greater than V1. V2 greater than V1. So this acceleration is what is positive, because we find the subtraction يعني بنطرح زي ما احنا عارفين V2 minus V1. So the value here should be in positive. لازم هيبقى positive. The result here is positive. Why? Because we take the subtraction between V2 and V1, and at the same time we know V2 is greater than V1. And we know here at the same time V2, which means what? Which means final speed, and V1 is the initial speed. So we can now describe the positive acceleration or increasing acceleration. We have another type, as we describe here acceleration as negative acceleration, or we have another definition as deceleration. We can say deceleration instead of, بدلا من negative acceleration, we can say deceleration instead of negative acceleration. What is meant by negative acceleration? As we see here, we have graph represents acceleration, and especially this graph represents what? Represents the negative acceleration. We have two axes, as we see here in front of you. We have V and what? And T. Speed and time. As you see here, speed decreases through time unit. Maybe the driver, السواق, use the car's brake. استخدم الفرامل. So V1 greater than V2. V1 greater than V2. And we know V1 is the what? Initial speed. And V2 is the final speed. فالسرعة الأخرانية أكيد قال إنه نستخدم brakes أو move in the dust or in the mud، مشي في طين أو في تراب، فاضطر إن هو the speed decreases through the time unit. So here we talk about negative acceleration. Negative acceleration, as we can define negative acceleration as speed decreases through time unit. As we should know, final speed less than initial speed, which means V2 less than V1 or V1 greater than V2. So the value or the result here in negative, as we have V2 minus V1 and V2 less than V1. So the result here in negative, not positive. So we describe this acceleration as negative acceleration, not positive acceleration. So here, dear students, we know now how can we differentiate between the two types of acceleration or the description of acceleration. Firstly, we know acceleration is the change in speed through time unit. Generally, تغيير في السرعة. Not we can't define as increasing or decreasing. We say generally change in the speed through time unit. But we have two descriptions. وصفين. Maybe we have positive acceleration as the speed increases through time unit. So in this case we have positive value. النتيجة لازم تبقى positive. Why? Because final speed is greater than initial speed. Why? Because in the problem we take delta V over delta T as we studied before in the previous episode لما خدناها في الحلقة اللي فاتت. V2 minus V1 equal positive value. Why? Because V2 greater than V1 or V1 اللي هي initial speed less than final speed. And we have another type or another description of acceleration as we talk about negative acceleration. In this case, the speed decreases through time unit as we have final speed is greater than initial speed. بمعنى ان V2 less than V1. V2 less than V1. So as we subtract V2 minus V1, the result here in negative. So this acceleration or deceleration, we can say negative acceleration or decreasing acceleration or deceleration. The three titles or the three names describe the same concept. التلاتة بيوصفوا حاجة واحدة. Negative acceleration or deceleration or decreasing acceleration. And in problems we should mention or determine, نحدد final speed and initial speed, because according to the result of the acceleration, we have negative and positive acceleration, we should determine أو نحدد the kind of acceleration or the description of acceleration according to each one of them. As we see here, give reason for. The object which moves at uniform speed, its acceleration equals 0. We talk about uniform speed. And you know what is meant by uniform speed? Uniform speed, which means what? Constant speed. Constant speed يعني السرعة ثابتة. Its acceleration equals 0. طيب. As we have here, we have V1 equal V2. Final speed equal initial speed. Because the speed is constant. السرعة ثابتة. Because this speed is called uniform speed. السرعة ما تتغيرش. As the speed of moon around the earth or the speed of the earth around the sun. So acceleration equals 0. If for example لو خدناها كده مثلا V1 equal 10 meter per second, V2 equal 10 meter per second. Two are equal. Okay? طيب يبقى acceleration here for example A equal V2 minus V1 over delta T. Whatever. V2 minus V1, 10 minus 10 over any number. Whatever. Over 10, over 20, any number. Over 20, for example. As time here, يعني, we talk about the delta T. Okay. 10 minus 10 equals 0. 0 over any time, any number, equal what? Equal 0. Equal 0. So this give reason. Ask me why the body moves with uniform speed, its acceleration equals 0. ما عندوش acceleration أصلا. Give reason for. In this case, we will say as the answer according to this example. أكني اديته example بالظبط. Because the speed doesn't change. Doesn't change. السرعة ما اتغيرتش. Or we can say because final speed equal initial speed. So acceleration equals 0 because the speed doesn't change. And we know acceleration, which means what? Change in the speed through time passes. We have two graphs here. One of them is distance and time. One of them is speed and time. This graph, first graph, describe what? Describe the speed. Because we have distance and time. Speed equal distance over time. And here we have a straight line passes through the origin point. As we see here. أهو صح. Straight line passes through the origin point. Okay, so we talk about what here? We talk about the constant speed or uniform speed, which means body covered equal distances at equal periods of time or intervals of time. At the same time, we have another graph. Represents what? Represents constant speed. Constant speed or uniform speed. But here, this graph, V and T. So we have a straight line parallel to the time axis. زي ما احنا شايفينه كده قدامنا اهو. Straight line parallel to the time axis. This graph represents two facts. Number one, uniform speed. Number 2, acceleration equal 0. And we know why, because V1 equal V2 or V2 equal V1 as final speed V2 and initial speed as V1. I think now, dear students, we can differentiate easily between the two descriptions of the acceleration, as we have positive acceleration and we have negative acceleration. According to final speed and initial speed, we can differentiate between any or each type or of these acceleration. And according to, again, the result, we can find the final speed and initial speed. We can find according to the result. النتيجة اللي هتطلع لي, maybe in the problem we ask about then determine the kind of acceleration. So according to the type or according to the result, we can describe the kind or نوع الاكسلريشن, positive or negative acceleration. So as we studied before in the previous episode, we have uniform speed and non-uniform speed. Also here in this lesson we have uniform acceleration and non-uniform acceleration. So if we define or can remember the definition of acceleration as acceleration, which means what? Change in the speed through time unit. صح؟ طيب. We have uniform and non-uniform, or regular and irregular acceleration. So how can we differentiate between them? As we differentiate in the first lesson, as we talk about the speed, uniform and the non-uniform speed, or regular and irregular speed. Acceleration, change in the speed through time unit. Okay? طيب. Uniform acceleration, أقول له change in the speed in equal values through equal periods of time, because we talk about uniform acceleration. Acceleration, we have speed and time. So we say uniform acceleration, change in the what? Speed in equal values. Why? Because we talk about the uniform acceleration at equal intervals or periods of time. And we have another kind of acceleration as irregular or non-uniform acceleration. In this case we have speed change at or in equal values but at unequal periods of time, or vice versa. ممكن اقول له the speed change in unequal values through equal periods of time. يبقى we talk about speed and time. So we describe acceleration as uniform and non-uniform acceleration, kinds of acceleration, and we talk about what here, and we talk about positive and negative acceleration. يعني for example we talk about uniform acceleration زي ما احنا شايفين قدامنا. We have two axes V and T. So how can we describe here uniform acceleration? Uniform acceleration, change in what? Change in the speed. يعني بغير السرعة. But should we remember we talk about uniform. So we say in equal values through equal periods of time. So we have change in the speed in equal values أقول له طبعا through equal periods of time, and we describe this kind of acceleration, as we said before, by straight line passes through the origin point, and here we have two axes, as first one is v and second one is t. Speed, or change in the speed through equal values at equal intervals of time or periods of time. On the other side, we have non-uniform acceleration. As we said before, we have two kinds, uniform and non-uniform. We have v and we have here t. Okay, so we have curved line passes through the origin point. So we describe here what? We describe the non or irregular acceleration as the speed. أقول له the speed مالها؟ أقول له the speed change. Why? Because we talk about acceleration. The speed change at equal values through unequal periods or intervals of time. يبقى we have speed change at equal values through unequal periods of time, and we describe this kind of acceleration as non-uniform or irregular acceleration. Non-uniform or irregular acceleration or non-uniform acceleration. So now, dear students, we can differentiate between the two kinds of acceleration. We have two kinds of acceleration, as uniform and non-uniform, and at the same time we can describe, يعني خلي بالنا احنا هنقول انواع وهنوصف. يبقى we have two kinds of acceleration as kinds or types, انواع: uniform acceleration and non-uniform acceleration. Okay, at the same time we have description of acceleration. بوصف الاكسلريشن as positive acceleration and negative acceleration. If we talk about kinds of acceleration, we should say uniform and non-uniform. Firstly, we have what is meant by acceleration. Acceleration is the change in speed through time unit. If we have uniform acceleration as the first type of acceleration, here we have change in the speed at equal values through equal periods of time. Equal. But if we talk about non-uniform acceleration, we talk about what? Change in the speed through equal or at equal values through unequal periods of time, or vice versa. أخلي change in the speed at unequal values through equal periods of time. يعني عكست، خليت واحدة equal، ما ينفعش. We can say unequal and unequal. One of them is equal and one other side or other quantity should be unequal. واحدة equal، واحدة unequal. As we describe here at the same time, the description of acceleration. بنوصف acceleration. We have positive acceleration, the speed increases through time unit, and we have negative acceleration as the speed decreases through time unit. And we have one case, we have no acceleration, as acceleration equals 0. Why? Because final speed equal the initial speed. The speed is constant or uniform. السرعة ثابتة, which means constant. We have no change in the speed, so we have no acceleration, or acceleration equals 0. But if we have a final speed greater than initial speed, we have positive acceleration, and if we have a final speed less than initial speed, we have negative acceleration. I hope you can understand how can we differentiate between the kinds of acceleration, and how can we mention the types or kinds of acceleration. We have here to watch this little video. This video describe, or as you see here, aeroplane in case of landing. The speed here decreases through time unit. السرعة بتقل بمرور وقت. Final speed less than initial speed. Final speed less than initial speed. So the speed decreases through time unit. السرعة بتقل بمرور الوقت. So we describe what here? We describe the negative acceleration or deceleration until the body stop. So final speed in this case equals 0 if the body stop completely. So final speed here equals 0. So we talk about negative acceleration. The speed decreases through time unit, or final speed less than initial speed. As you see here, the aeroplane in case of landing has negative acceleration. Okay. So dear students, we describe now the positive acceleration, negative acceleration, uniform speed, non-uniform speed. And at the same time we have this give reason for object which moves at uniform speed, its acceleration equals 0 only because the speed doesn't change. Okay, we have some questions to refresh and arrange this information. Complete the following statements. تعالوا كده نحلها مع بعض نشوف. At regular motion, the distance is what proportional with what? Regular motion. We talk about distance and another fact, but we have proportional here, which means relation. Regular motion. Regular motion or regular speed? Distance is what proportional? Directly or inversely? We say directly. زي ما بيسموها تناسب طردي. يعني if the distance increase, time will increase because we have regular speed proportional with time. Okay. The speed time graph for motion at uniform speed. خلي بالنا بيقول ايه عشان ما يضحكش عليا. Speed time and uniform speed. As we have two axes V and T. يعني لازم يبقى كده صح؟ V and T. But we talk about uniform speed. So uniform speed, which means constant speed, as straight line parallel to time axis. يبقى هقول له ان هوت represented by a straight line parallel to the time axis, because no change in the speed, or we have constant speed, عندنا سرعة ثابتة. Number 3, measuring unit of speed is, while measuring unit of acceleration is. We have two measuring units of speed, but we have only one measuring unit in our syllabus في المنهج عندنا يعني of acceleration. As we have measuring unit of speed is meter per second, or we have another measuring unit as kilometer per hour. But acceleration, we have only one measuring unit as meter per second power 2. Meter per second power 2. Number 4. Acceleration is the change in the object's watt in 1 watt. Acceleration is the change in the object's watt. Acceleration, we have a mathematical rule. A equal delta V over delta T. V, which means speed. أيوة، يبقى in the object's speed in 1 second or through time unit, because acceleration described or is described by speed and time, so speed through or in 1 second. Number 5. Acceleration increases if the speed of the object watt by time. So acceleration, we know, increases, which means positive acceleration. So acceleration increases if the speed of the object, yes, increasing by time, because V2 greater than V1, or final speed greater than initial speed. So the speed increasing by time. Next one, write the scientific term. The amount of the change in the object speed in 1 second. The amount in the object speed in 1 second. We should write here what? نكتب هنا ايه? Yes, we talk about speed and second time, so we talk about acceleration. Okay. A kind of motion in which the object's speed increases by time. A kind of motion in which the object's speed increases by time. We have speed increases, and time. So we describe what here? We describe increasing acceleration or positive acceleration. Positive acceleration. Okay. What is meant by? What is meant by? A body moves at 0 acceleration. We have only one case, the acceleration equals 0 if the body moves. Yes. يبقى the body moves with uniform speed. What is meant by uniform speed? Constant speed, as V1 equal V2, or final speed or initial speed equal final speed. So acceleration here equal what? Equal 0. No acceleration. And we know acceleration is the change in the speed through time unit. Number 2. A body moves by acceleration or decelerating motion equal -2 meter per second power 2. يعني نقدر نقول عليه some kind of complicated question, سؤال مركب شوية. But we can answer this type of question or questions very easy. Why? Because we have decelerating motion, or without decelerating motion we know by The sign here we have negative 2 meter per second power 2 or negative 2 meter per second squared. So the definition speed decreases. عرفت منين؟ اقول له من الساين، من العلامه negative. The speed decreases 2 meter per second every 1 second. ليه قلت كده؟ Why we use this way in our answer? Why? Because we talk about speed decreases from the sign. Speed measuring unit is meter per second. And in every 1 second, because we have another second, so we use here what? We use meter per second power 2 instead of meter per second per second. بدل ما اقول meter per second per second بقول meter per second power 2. Okay. We have here a problem, or يعني I think it's very easy to answer this problem. As you see here on the monitor, a train moves by a speed 20 meter per second with uniform speed or deceleration negative 2 meter per second power 2. If the brakes are applied, find the time needed to stop the train. خلي بالنا هنا هو the given is very important in this problem. بيقول لي speed 20 meter per second. So here we have what? Firstly we have V1. بيقول لي train moves by speed، بيتحرك بسرعة، يبقى دي ال V1 with uniform deceleration negative 2 meter per second power 2. يبقى A اللي هي الاكسلريشن بتاعتي equal negative 2 meter per second power 2. If the brakes are applied، الفرامل متاحة، find the time needed to stop the train. So T is unknown here. We should find the T. And we have واحد يقول لي طب ما فين V2 الفاينل سبيد؟ قال لي to stop عشان يوقف القطر، يبقى V2 here equals 0. Okay. How can we answer this question? By write the mathematical rule. We have a magic triangle here. صح؟ نعمله كده اهو. And say acceleration equal V2 minus V1 over delta T. طب هو عايز مين؟ We need to know what delta T. We need to know the time. Okay? So time equal V2 minus V1 over A. V2 equal how many? Equal 0. مش هو قال stop؟ V1 minus 20 meter per second over acceleration negative 2 meter per second power 2. By calculator or by your mind ان هو negative 20 over 2 equal how many? Equal negative 10 negative 10. طبعا مفيش تايم هيبقى بالنيجاتيف لان نيجاتيف 20 over negative 2 هتبقى مفيش نيجاتيف over نيجاتيف، هنبقى التايم هنا هيبقى عندي ايه؟ as you see 20 over 2 equal 10 seconds. Why? Because we calculate here, we calculate time. نحسب التايم. We have no time in negative. The time from the values that can't be calculated by negative value. يعني التايم من الارقام اللي ينفع ما بتكتبش قدامها negative not like acceleration. In the next بأمر الله يعني episode we will explain the difference between physical quantities, as we have two types of negative quantities, scalar and vector physical quantities. Some kind of physical quantities can be positive or negative value. Like acceleration, we have positive acceleration and the negative acceleration. But time in positive only. Time moves forward. الوقت بيتحرك دايما لقدام، مفيش وقت بيتحرك لورا. عشان كده in this problem we calculate the time in positive. ما نكتبش negative 10 meter negative 10 seconds. How come? Time can't return back. الوقت ما بيرجعش للخلف. But acceleration maybe some other kinds we will describe or explain them later in the next episodes inshallah. So today, dear students, we know number one, what is meant by acceleration. Number two, how can we describe acceleration. Then the نوصف acceleration. We have two descriptions of acceleration as positive and negative acceleration. Firstly, what is meant by acceleration? A change in the speed through time unit, or change in the value of speed through time unit. Change. But we have positive and negative acceleration as speed increases through time unit or speed decreases through time unit. So the description of acceleration is positive and negative acceleration. At the same time, we have two kinds of acceleration, as uniform or irregular acceleration and irregular or non-uniform acceleration. We talk about speed and time. So we have change in the speed at equal values through equal periods of time. We talk about uniform acceleration or regular acceleration. On the other side, we have irregular acceleration as change in the speed through change in the speed in unequal values through equal periods of time or the vice versa. يبقى أنا عرفت الفرق ما بين acceleration and description of acceleration, kinds of acceleration, and how can we deal with acceleration. At the same time, we know the measuring unit of acceleration. We have only one measuring unit of acceleration as meter per second power 2. Some students may ask me why we didn't use kilometer per hour power 2. It's right, logically right, صح مش غلط. But in our syllabus we should use meter per second power 2. If we have speed in kilometer per hour, we should change it into meter per second to calculate delta V over delta T to calculate the acceleration. We have only one measuring unit for acceleration, but we have two measuring units for speed. Speed meter per second or kilometer per hour, okay. But acceleration only one measuring unit, meter per second power 2. And we know why meter per second power 2, because we have meter per second as measuring unit of speed, and the second is the measuring unit of time. So meter per second or meter per second power 2 as the final measuring unit of acceleration. In next episode, inshallah, we will describe the physical quantities, as we have two kinds of physical quantities, scalar and vector physical quantities. At the end of this episode, I hope you get more benefits from these informations, and inshallah I till meet you again. Thank you, see you soon, and goodbye.